Jaya Radha Radha Kunja Bihari Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Guru Parampara ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Tatsekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kinda Radha Shri Giri Govardhana ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Shri Nilachal Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Gangamai Jamunamai ki jai. Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Shri Harinam Prabhu ki jai. Shri Harinam Transcendental Distribution ki jai. Jai Gaura. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru Sri Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Shtapatam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Dharmahyam Tadati Swatatam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padikamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Ragulatam Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Harajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurandi Radhe Vrindavadishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranmani Vriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Vipasindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasavi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki
Jai.
So, we're going to read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but before we do that, I wanted to read a little excerpt actually from the Krishna book. And before we do that, I think it's nice to remind ourselves that in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is Srila Prabhupada gave us the Nectar of Devotion, then Rupa Goswami gave us this book as it's like a handbook for Krishna consciousness, a handbook for Bhakti. So if we want to know how to practice Krishna consciousness, this is where we find out how to practice. And in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami, he describes 64 different items of Bhakti, 64 different ways that we can worship and serve and engage in Krishna consciousness. And reading it, it's very easy to sense how important all 64 of these items are. And it's also really, really easy to sort of fall into I don't want to say a trap, but to fall into a situation where we feel, oh gosh, how am I ever going to achieve all of these? How am I going to perform all 64 of these items? What to speak of daily, weekly, monthly. I'm not sure some of these I'm even going to manage in a year or maybe even in a lifetime. Some of them are very niche. And so he goes on to explain that actually, although we have these 64 items of bhakti, And they are very, very important, and as much as we can manage our life in such a way that we can engage in these different activities. But there are 5 activities, which if you just perform those 5 regularly, then all success is there. Or you will get the full result of practicing Krishna consciousness. And those 5 are to associate with the devotees, to chant the holy name, to reside in a sacred place, to worship the deity of the Lord, and to regularly hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. Interestingly, in the Srimad Bhagavatam itself, we see this verse that says, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So the word Nitya literally means always, constantly, eternally, never ending. So we can think, well, how am I going to always, perpetually, constantly, uninterruptedly read the Srimad Bhagavatam? I've got work to do. I have a job, I have a family, and I have a house to look after. How am I going to read the Srimad Bhagavatam Nitya, constantly, eternally? So one of our acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he's explained that Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya means every day read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Every day read the Bhagavatam. Whether it's one verse, whether it's half an hour a day, an hour a day, whatever you can manage, but every day read the Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, we may, and actually, the morning program that we observe in our temples is a manifestation of all 5 of those activities of bhakti. We're worshipping the deity, we're hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're associating with devotees, we're chanting Hare Krishna, and we're in a sacred place. And that's something which I'm going to put on hold, because more on that later on this afternoon. But we're residing in a sacred place. And so we might challenge, therefore, well, if we're supposed to read the Srimad Bhagavatam every day, why are you reading Chaitanya Charitamrita? Why have you chosen Chaitanya Charitamrita? Surely every day, 7 days a week, we have to be very rigid, very institutional, has to be the Bhagavatam, no other book. But what is the Bhagavatam? What is the Srimad Bhagavatam? The Bhagavatam is the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's literally what Srimad Bhagavatam means, the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And actually, when we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, we also see that as much as it's a glorification of the Lord and his pastimes, it's also just as much a glorification of the Lord's devotees and his pastimes. So, for example, in the pastime of the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev, we could argue that that whole story is actually not about Lord Nrsimhadev. That's the story of Prahlad. It's a glorification of Prahlad Maharaj. It's I don't remember exactly, 5, 6 chapters glorifying the pastimes, the activities, the glories, the behavior, the character of Prahlad Maharaj. And then finally, right at the end, Lord Nrsimhadev comes to protect Prahlad Maharaj. And his protection of Prahlad is his glorification of Prahlad. So as much as it's a glorification of the Lord and his pastimes, it's also a glorification of the devotees of the Lord. Dhruva Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj and Shukadeva Goswami. Actually, in the Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj himself, he describes that Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam, that there are 9 different ways that we can serve Krishna. Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, praying, making friends with the Lord, surrendering everything to the Lord. 9 different ways that we can serve Krishna. And actually throughout the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see that the devotees who appear throughout the Bhagavatam, they show by their example how to perform these activities to the highest example. Hearing about Krishna is exemplified by Parikshit Maharaj. He heard the Srimad Bhagavatam. Speaking about Krishna is exemplified by Shukadeva Goswami, who spoke the Bhagavatam. Remembering Krishna is Prahlad Maharaj. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam. Worshipping the lotus feet of the Lord is Lakshmi Devi. Archanam, interestingly, Archanam is Prithu Maharaj. But who does he worship? You know, we tend to think Archanam means worshipping the deity. But actually, who did Prithu Maharaj worship? He worshipped the four Kumaras. He worshipped the devotees of the Lord. So as much as Archanam worship is about worshipping the deity, just as much it's about worshipping the devotees. Archanam Vandanam, offering prayers, Akura, as he entered into Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada explains that this is how we should all enter into Vrindavan, thinking about Krishna, meditating on Krishna, offering prayers to Krishna, and when we arrive in Vrindavan, we should follow the example of Akura and roll in the dust of Vraj. This is how you enter Vrindavan. So Akura sets this example: Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Hanumanji, Sakyam Arjun, and Apanivedanam Bali Maharaj, offering everything to the Lord. He said to Vamanadev, you take 3 steps, whatever you want. And with the first 2 steps, Vamanadev took the whole material world and the heavenly planets. And they said, well, you said 3, I've had 2 and I've taken everything. Now what am I going to have? Bali Maharaj said, place your foot on my head, take me, have everything. You know. So, as much as it's a glorification of the Lord, it's a glorification of the Lord's devotees. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is a glorification of the beautiful pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We could even argue that books like Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita are an extension of the Srimad Bhagavatam because it's glorifying the pure devotee of the Lord. So any glorification of the Lord and the Lord's devotees is Srimad Bhagavatam. And yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam, 12 cantos, we say 18,000 verses. If you count them, it's actually around about 12,500. And there's a whole explanation for that, which if we have time, we can say a little something about. But there's an explanation. But I thought it would be nice to start just with this little piece from Krishna book because it reminds me of what Chaitanya Vallabha was saying in the morning. So after we had Tulsi Puja this morning, for those who were there, then we read the translation. And the idea being that we shouldn't just sing the songs, but we should understand the meaning of the song. If we don't understand the meaning, then where is the meditation? Where is our meditation going? What are we thinking about? What are we meditating on as we're singing these songs? Excuse me. So in the Krishna book, in the pastime of worshipping Govardhan Hill, Krishna in the morning, he delivered the wives of the Brahmins who were performing sacrifice, and then he continued playing with the cowherd boys and taking the cows and the calves throughout the fields of Vrindavan. And then he came across a very interesting scenario. All the cowherd men, his father, they were setting up this enormous yajna. And so Krishna asked his father, what are you doing? And his father said, it's okay, Krishna, you just go and play. You don't need to worry about this. And Krishna kept persisting, and he said, my dear father, for those who are liberal and saintly, there is no secrecy. They do not think anyone to be a friend or enemy because they are always open to everyone. And even for those who are not so liberal, nothing should be secret for the family members and friends, although secrecy may be maintained for persons who are inimical. Therefore, you cannot keep any secrets from me. All persons are engaged in fruitive activities. Now, this is a really important thing that Krishna says. Some know what these activities are, and they know the result. And some execute activities without knowing the purpose or the result. A person who acts with full knowledge gets the full result. One who acts without knowledge does not get such a perfect result. Therefore, please let me know the purpose of the sacrifice you are going to perform. So this is a really interesting and a really, really important instruction that Krishna is giving. If you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, what the meaning of the activity is, you'll get one result. If you do the exact same activity but without understanding the meaning, the purpose, the purport behind the activity, you'll get a different result. And so, two people side by side may be doing the same exact activity, but they'll get very different results depending on their meditation, their consciousness, their understanding, their mentality. They'll get two different results. I'm going to just sort of hold on that point because I want to read these verses from the Chaitanya Charitamrita and then kind of pick up from this point again. So this is the Adi Leela of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 7, and it's the glories of the Pancatattva. And beginning from text number 20. Now I'm just going to read the English translations, and I'm not going to read all the purports, but just some. The characteristics of Krishna are understood to be a storehouse of transcendental love. Although that storehouse of love certainly came with Krishna when he was present, it was sealed. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came with his other associates of the Pancatattva, they broke the seal and plundered the storehouse to taste transcendental love of Krishna. The more they tasted it, the more their thirst for it grew. Sri Pancatattva themselves danced again and again, and thus made it easier to drink nectarian love of Godhead. They danced, cried, laughed, and chanted like madmen, and in this way they distributed love of Godhead. In distributing love of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates did not consider who was a fit candidate and who was not, nor where such distribution should or should not take place. They made no conditions. Wherever they got the opportunity, the members of the Pancatattva distributed love of Godhead. Although the members of the Pancatattva plundered the storehouse of love of Godhead and ate and distributed its contents, there was no scarcity, for this wonderful storehouse is so complete that as the love is distributed, the supply increases hundreds of times. The flood of love of Godhead swelled in all directions, and thus young men, old men, women and children were all immersed in that inundation. The Krishna consciousness movement will inundate the entire world and drown everyone, whether one be a gentleman, a rogue, or even lame, invalid, or blind. When the 5 members of the Pancatattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all became exceedingly happy. The more the 5 members of the Pancatattva caused the rains of love of Godhead to fall, the more the inundation increases and spreads all over the world. I chose these verses last night. I kind of already had an idea that I was going to speak about these, and then last night, just before I took rest, I was reading through them and just trying to meditate on them. And then I was very pleasantly surprised this morning when I saw the rains of love of Godhead behind the members of the Pancatattva falling and inundating the whole world. So Lord Chaitanya's arrangements are inconceivable. So it's, here we can see the verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita coming to life. And the rains of love of Godhead, literally the clouds are there, and the rains of love of God, they're inundating the whole world. And this is exactly what we're hearing here. That I'm not a Bengali scholar. Jagat Tuvila Jivera Vaila Bijanasha Nahi Deki Pancha Janera Parama Ulasa. When the 5 members of the Pancatattva saw the entire world drowned in love of Godhead and the seed of material enjoyment in the living entities completely destroyed, they all became exceedingly happy. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes in his Anubhasya that since the living entities all belong to the marginal potency of the Lord, each and every living entity has a natural tendency to become Krishna conscious. Although at the same time, the seed of material enjoyment is undoubtedly within him. The seed of material enjoyment, watered by the course of material nature, fructifies to become a tree of material entanglement, which endows the living entity with all kinds of material enjoyment. To enjoy such material facilities is to be afflicted with the 3 material miseries. However, when by nature's law there is a flood, the seeds within the earth become inactive. Similarly, as the inundation of love of Godhead spreads all over the world, the seed of material enjoyment becomes impotent. Thus, the more the Krishna consciousness movement spreads, the more the desire for material enjoyment decreases. Srila Prabhupada actually said this is a test of how we're doing in Krishna consciousness. If we can see that our material desires are decreasing, we're doing something right. If we see that our material desires are increasing, then we can go and seek guidance. Where is it that I'm sort of, where do I need to adjust my practices so it brings the temperature down again? The seed of material enjoyment automatically becomes impotent with the increase of the Krishna consciousness movement. Which is interesting. Srila Prabhupada doesn't say the seed of material enjoyment automatically becomes impotent with the increase of Krishna consciousness. He says with the increase of the Krishna consciousness movement. As the Krishna consciousness movement itself increases around the world, even though the living entities may not necessarily be directly connected with that movement, still the effect of the presence of the Krishna consciousness movement means that it is gradually lowering the temperature of the world. Although it may not seem like that, it may not feel like that, but actually it's having its effect. It's having effect on the consciousness of the living entities. Instead of being envious that Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world by the grace of Lord Chaitanya, those who are jealous should be happy. As indicated here by the words Parama Ulasa, which means they all became exceedingly happy. Parama is highest, Ulasa, happiness. But because they are Kanishta Adhikaris or Prakrita Bhaktas, materialistic devotees who are not advanced in spiritual knowledge, they are envious instead of happy. And they try to find faults in Krishna consciousness. Yet, Srimad Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur writes in his Chaitanya Chandramrita that when influenced by Lord Chaitanya's Krishna consciousness movement, materialists become averse to talking about their wives and children. Supposedly learned scholars give up their tedious studies of Vedic literature. Yogis give up their impractical practices of mystic yoga. Ascetics give up their austere activities of penance and austerity, and sannyasis give up their study of Sankhya philosophy. Thus they are all attracted by the bhakti yoga practices of Lord Chaitanya and cannot relish a mellow taste superior to that of Krishna consciousness. So, reading Srila Prabhupada's books and reading Shastra in general is vital for our progress in Krishna consciousness, because as Krishna explains there in the Govardhan pastime, sorry, I'm just pulling up a verse here. As Krishna explains in the Govardhan pastime, that if we understand why we're doing what we're doing, then we'll get one result. And if we do the same activity without understanding what we're doing, we'll get a different result. Now, it's not that we necessarily get a bad result, ever, from chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna always brings a positive result, and whether it's done knowingly or unknowingly, it has its effect. It has its effect. But as we progress in our Krishna consciousness, we shouldn't remain, one way of saying it, which, hopefully doesn't sound too condescending, but maybe one way of understanding it, explaining it, is that we shouldn't always remain on the guest program. When we visit the temple as a guest, just chant Hare Krishna, just take prasadam, just join in, just sing and dance. Don't worry about anything, just join in. And then we see practically that when guests do that, they make progress, they get taste, they make advancement. Just like Srila Prabhupada was saying here, that when influenced by Lord Chaitanya's Krishna consciousness movement, materialists become averse to talking about their wives and children, learned scholars and so on, yogis and so on, ascetics and so on, sannyasis and so on, that when they're affected by or influenced by or touched by the Krishna consciousness movement, then one of the results is that it has its effect. It reduces material desires. and it reduces material attraction naturally, inadvertently, even though people may not be necessarily looking for that as a result. In fact, I've even heard stories of devotees who try to go back, who become somehow disillusioned with their Krishna conscious practices, and they try to sort of go back to material life, and they're so frustrated because they say, I'm trying to enjoy life here, I'm trying to go back and enjoy life the way that I was previously, but I can't enjoy life anymore. So sometimes devotees say that coming to the Krishna consciousness movement is a little bit like joining the mafia. You know, once you're in the building, you can't leave. Once you're in the door, that's it. You know, you're not allowed to leave. You can never leave. And actually, Srila Prabhupada makes a wonderful and quite, I don't know if his intention was to be humorous, but I find it quite humorous that in the Lecture of Instruction, Srila Prabhupada says that once someone begins this journey of Krishna consciousness, they are forcibly dragged back to Godhead. And sometimes I feel my own journey is a little bit like that. I feel like a toddler who's kicking and screaming and dragging his feet and lying down on the ground and refusing to move. And his parents have got his dad's got one hand, his mum's got the other hand, and it's like, come on, you're coming home whether you like it or not. You know, and it's like, I don't want to go, I want to enjoy life, I want sense gratification, I don't care, you've chanted Hare Krishna, you're coming back home. You can either stand up and come peacefully, or you can suffer, but either way, you're going back home. So this is like our journey in Krishna consciousness. But actually, the more, in one sense we do say, just chant Hare Krishna, but it's, the more we understand about the process of Krishna consciousness, the more our just chanting of Hare Krishna bears fruit. And one very, very deep, profound, and very beautiful example of this is actually the meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra itself. So I don't know if anyone is able to share, what does Srila Prabhupada give in a very concise sutra? What is the meaning of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Right, exactly. O energy of the Lord, all attractive person, reservoir of all pleasure, please engage me in your service. Please engage me in your service. And rightly so, correctly so, if we're given service, we might and sometimes do even say, oh, my chanting can't be that bad. I thought my japa was terrible, but here I'm being given an opportunity of service. Correctly, because that is one level of understanding, that we chant and we're given service. But actually, if we're thinking, if we're meditating while we're chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, please let me wash the pots today. Krishna, please let me cut the vegetables today. Krishna, please let me clean the temple room today. That's the service we'll get. And by doing that service, we'll be purified, we'll be blessed. Nothing wrong with that. But actually, in the deepest sense, in the most profound sense, what is the service that we are actually asking for as we're chanting Hare Krishna? Anyone like to reflect? What is the real meaning of please engage me in your service? What is the deepest, most profound meaning of please let me engage in your service? Anyone have any reflections? Any thoughts?
To go out in the public and to bring people out of their ignorance by preaching to them.
That's nice, and if that's our desire, we can do that life after life after life after life, which is a wonderful thing to do. It's a glorious thing to do. But what is the goal? What is the ultimate goal of chanting Hare Krishna? To get pure love for Krishna and
to please Krishna.
Serve Krishna eternally in the spiritual world. This is our prayer for service, and this is what the holy name is giving. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in well, in a few places, but he actually, Bhaktivinoda wrote a newsletter which has since been compiled. He wrote a number of these newsletters when he was developing the Namahata. The Namahata. The Namahata is the marketplace of the holy name. And this was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's beginning the process of spreading Krishna consciousness all around the world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is sometimes called like the grandfather of the Hare Krishna movement, because he was the person who really started spreading Krishna consciousness to every town and village systematically in a very organized way. And then his son Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he took it to the next level, and of course Srila Prabhupada took it to the next level again. But in his newsletter, which is called Kudruma Kalpatavi, the Desire Grove of Kudruma. Kudruma Dweep is one of the 9 islands of Navadweep Dham. So Navadweep is where Lord Chaitanya appeared, and it's divided into 9 regions. They're called 9 islands, Navadweepa. Of course, when we go now, we see that not every island is separated by water, although at one time it was. So therefore, Navadweep. And Kudruma is the place where Bhaktivinoda Thakur resided, and it's also the place of Surabhi Kunj. And Surabhi Kunj is the headquarters of the Namahata, the marketplace of the holy name, and the proprietor is Lord Nityananda, Koda Nitai. Koda Nitai is the boss, the employer, the businessman, the owner of the marketplace of the holy name, Koda Nitai. And in the Kudruma Kalpatavi, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that as we, Lord Nityananda, he's selling the holy name, he's distributing the holy name. And what is the price? The price is a paisa of faith. A paisa of faith. And a paisa, I don't even know if paisa is still used in India, but a paisa is like 1/100th of a rupee. So, there are 100 rupees in a pound. Now, this was, whatever, 150 years ago. I'm not sure whether the price of the holy name has increased due to inflation. But a paisa of faith is a very little bit of faith. And ultimately, a paisa literally means, are you willing to give it a go? Are you willing to try? Are you willing to take? Now, I actually opened the wrong verse here. This is a verse that I want to read, but there's another verse, another element which is very interesting. So, a paisa, that buys you the name, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. A paisa of faith buys you the syllables of the holy name, the sound of the holy name, the sound vibration of the holy name. But, and that is Shraddha, faith. Through faith we take the holy name. But actually, as our faith increases, as we progress in Krishna consciousness, as we become more steady in our practices of Krishna consciousness, so that paisa of faith, that Shraddha, that represents Shraddha, faith, sadhu sangha, associating with devotees, bhajana kriya, actually trying to practice the process of bhakti under the guidance of sadhus, and anartha nivriti, becoming free from the unwanted things in the heart. Once that paisa of faith that buys us nam, the sound vibration of the holy name, once that has had the effect of clearing the heart, actually our bank account increases. Our bank account increases. And with 1/8 of a silver coin, now I'm not sure, because I know that 100 paisa means a rupee, I'm not sure where a silver coin fits into all of that. How many rupees is a silver coin? I don't know. But 1/8 of a silver coin, that buys you rupa yuktana. So there is nam, the sound of the holy name, but then there is rupa yuktana. Rupa yuktana. That means the holy name and the form of the Lord. It means that as we chant the holy name, we remember the form of the Lord. We are conscious of the form of Krishna. And actually it's described that to come to that point, we can't only be chanting the holy name. It's not only chanting Hare Krishna. For the form to manifest within the heart and mind as we're chanting, to come to that point of Rupa Yuktana, we have to be hearing about the form of the Lord. We have to be hearing about Krishna. So yeah, just chant Hare Krishna, but Srila Prabhupada got up every single morning around about 1 o'clock in the morning and spent several hours writing his books. And these books it's not like, I mean, I'm going to use a terrible example here, a really, really mundane example that I know Chaitanya Balaji will get. Hopefully the rest of you are not quite coming from the same background. But it's not like his books say, all work and all play makes Jack a dull boy. All work and all play makes Jack a dull boy. It's not like this book from The Shining, where it's just the same thing again and again and again and again. You don't read Prabhupada's books and he says, just chant Hare Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna, just chant Hare Krishna. He doesn't say that. He gives us so much information, so much knowledge about the process of bhakti, the form of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna, the qualities of Krishna, how to associate with devotees, the science of Krishna. You know, he doesn't just say, just chant Hare Krishna. So chanting Hare Krishna is the most important thing, but it's not the only thing. And for that chanting of Hare Krishna to really bear fruit, we need to be hearing about Krishna. We need to be hearing about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada said we should chant Krishna's name like a child calls for its mother. Well, the only way a child can call for its mother in the way that it does is because it knows its mother. It knows what its mother looks like. It knows what its mother smells like. It knows what its mother's voice is like. It knows the feel of its mother's skin. And therefore, when it calls the name of its mother, the mother's name and form and qualities and pastimes are all manifest because the child knows its mother. If we want to chant Hare Krishna like a child calls for its mother, we have to know Krishna. We have to hear about Krishna. We have to fall in love with the person of Krishna. Ultimately, it is the holy name that will deliver us, but there is a science of chanting that holy name so that we get the fruit of that holy name. And as we continue chanting, we've had Nam, we've had Rupa Yukta Nam, then for 1/4 of a silver coin, Lord Nityananda, he gives us Guna Yukta Nam. Guna Yukta Nam is the name with the form and the qualities of Krishna. We actually become conscious of the qualities of Krishna as we chant the holy name. And then 1/2 of a silver coin, Leela Yuktanam, the pastimes of the Lord appear within the heart and the mind. And then, for a full silver coin, as we hear about the name, the form, the qualities, and the pastimes of Krishna, the desired result of that is that each one of us, as the individual spirit souls that we are, we will become attracted to a particular pastime of the Lord, to a particular quality of the Lord, to a particular relationship of the Lord. We hear the Srimad Bhagavatam again and again and again and again, but ultimately we find ourselves slowly drawn towards Krishna with the cowherd boys, Krishna with Mother Yashoda, Krishna with the gopis of Vrindavan, wherever it is that our heart takes us. And that is also based on our association. As we associate with certain devotees who have a particular mood of relationship with Krishna, naturally we'll be drawn towards worshipping Krishna in a similar way. And then, for 1 full silver coin, Lord Nityananda blesses us with Rasikanam. He reveals our personal relationship with Krishna. Whether it be Shantaras, Dasyaras, Sakyaras, Vatsalyaras, Madhuryaras. But the holy name reveals. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, you reveal your own love dalliance in one of his songs. You will reveal the holy name. You will reveal my relationship with you and how I will love you and how I will serve you. And then for a gold coin, Sarvarasa Siktanam. The mellow reveals the full splendor of Krishna. This is prema. This is prema. And then the holy name delivers us into that pastime, into that rasa, into that eternal relationship with Krishna, where we can serve Krishna eternally in that mood, in that rasa, in that spiritual world. So, yeah, just chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, dear Krishna, please engage me in your service. but this is the service we want, and this is the chanting of Hare Krishna that we want. And this will come through regularly hearing and through serving the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya is the object of our worship. In Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya is the object of worship. You may be attracted to Krishna, great. Then it's Lord Chaitanya and Krishna. You may be attracted to Jagannath, great. Then it has to be Lord Chaitanya and Jagannath. You may be attracted to Nrsimhadev, wonderful, but it has to be Lord Chaitanya and Nrsimhadev. We cannot neglect the worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Kali Yuga because Lord Chaitanya is our Yuga avatar. He is the object of worship in Kali Yuga. And what is the method of worship? The method of worship is just chant Hare Krishna and distribute the holy name to the world. We distribute Krishna consciousness, we take Krishna consciousness. Shivaram Swami Maharaj, in one of his lectures, he said, you can't give Krishna consciousness without being Krishna conscious, and you can't be Krishna conscious without giving Krishna consciousness. So the process of Krishna consciousness is be Krishna conscious and give Krishna consciousness. And this is the method of worship. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the object of worship, and the method of worship is become Krishna conscious by hearing and chanting about Krishna and distribute somehow or other, or be a part of the mission of distributing Krishna consciousness. Be a part of that mission. And what is the result of that? Then in the Chaitanya Chandramrita by Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, same book that Srila Prabhupada was quoting there. Yata yata gora padara vinde vindeta bhaktim krita punya rasi tata tata sapati rija kasmat radha padam moja subandhu rasi. One who is extremely fortunate may get the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As much as one can devote his full attention to the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, to that extent he will be able to taste the nectarine service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. The more one engages in the service of Sri Chaitanya, the more one finds oneself in Vrindavan tasting the nectar of the service of Sri Radha. This is the incredible and indescribable mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In previous ages, devotees of the Lord had barely even heard about Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Great sages, incredibly qualified sages and Brahmins and ascetics who would be so qualified in the mode of goodness, such controlled mind, controlled senses, engaging in bhakti, they would attain Vaikuntha. In Kali Yuga, Patita Pavana Gora Hari has come, and he's come to the most fallen, most sinful, most degraded, most unqualified, and he's giving the simplest practice that requires practically no qualification or training. And he's saying, you do this, not only you go to Vaikuntha, you go to Goloka Vrindavan. And not only you go to Vrindavan, Goloka, but by worshipping me, I will bring you directly into the dancing party of Radha and Krishna and the gopis of Vraja. The most unqualified people, the most simple process of bhakti, just chant Hare Krishna, and we can go to Goloka Vrindavan to the extent that we serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Another translation for that verse, as much as we devote ourselves to the lotus feet of Sri Gauranga, we will automatically achieve the nectarine service of Srimati Radharani in Vrindavan. An investment in Navadvip Dham will automatically take one to Vrindavan. How one will be carried there will be unknown to him. But those who have good fortune invest everything in the service of Gauranga. If they do that, they will find that everything has automatically been offered to the divine feet of Srimati Radharani. She will accept them in her confidential service and give them engagement, saying, oh, you have a good recommendation from Navadvip. I immediately appoint you to this service. So we may think, oh, I'm not qualified to serve Radha and Krishna. You don't have to be. You just serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And by serving Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we won't even see it happening. All of a sudden, we will open our eyes one day, and we'll be in Vrindavan, serving the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan Gaudiya ki jai. Any comments, questions, reflections from anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for a very nice lecture. I have a question. You said about, in the beginning, about people who are fully conscious about what they're doing, that they get the full result, and then the people who do not, then they don't get the result. So what about people who we share on Harinam, the holy name, and they come and dance with us and engage, but they don't really know what they're doing? Do they get an effect? Or?
Yeah, because I don't know. Maybe it wasn't clear the way I explained it, but it's not that they get no result; it's they get a different result. So those who do something in full understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it, they get the full result. Those who do things without that understanding, they get a different result. But that different result is still a positive result. And so what we're describing here, like the different stages of Nam, like Nam, Rupa Yukta Nam, Guna Yukta Nam, Lila Yukta Nam, Rasika Nam, as our own understanding, consciousness, meditation grows and deepens, then that will bring us through those stages. But the first stage is Shraddha. The first stage is Shraddha. Now, everyone in this room is on the stage of Shraddha. And everyone in this room is actually on quite a profound stage of Shraddha. Because I couldn't go out on the street today and start talking to people about, Rupa Yuktanam Leela. If I do, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is probably going to say, Guru, can you just calm down? Slow down. So and even the offences against the holy name is to not preach the glories of the holy name to a faithless person. But that doesn't mean we don't say to people, chant Hare Krishna. Because chanting Hare Krishna always gives an effect, it always gives a result. And that result brings one to the point of Shraddha. There's something happening here, something going on when I chant Hare Krishna. I can't put my finger on it, I don't understand what it is, but there's something about this mantra which is capturing my heart. I went home, I heard these Hare Krishnas on the street, and now I can't get that mantra out of my mind. Sometimes people read Prabhupada's books. It's like, I don't understand what he's saying, but I can't stop reading it. Because reading Prabhupada's books is not an academic experience. There may be an element of that to it, and therefore we have our Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav courses. We want to systematically study Srila Prabhupada's books. But actually the most profound element of reading Srila Prabhupada's books is just associating with Srila Prabhupada. And so we give people Srila Prabhupada's books. They may not understand what Prabhupada is saying, but still it has an effect. And people feel it. It's like something about this book. I can't quite understand what he's saying, but somehow it's doing something to me. It's awakening something. So that's like the beginning of Shraddha. It's the beginning of Shraddha. Now Shraddha, actually when we look at this description of these names, Nam covers Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Anartha Nivriti. Rupa Yuktanam comes at the stage of Nishta, steadiness. So if we're not experiencing that, we shouldn't be discouraged. Anartha Nivriti takes time. Sorry if I don't want to go over time here. We're at 1:30.
That's okay, we can go till 25.
Okay. Dinabandhu Prabhu, I think when you and I were there actually, maybe in Vrindavan around about 2012, something like that, he gave class and he said, and I really resonated with this, I'm from Blackpool. If you've never been, please don't go. But I'm from Blackpool, it's famous for roller coasters and fairground rides, and when I joined the movement, it had the highest roller coaster in the world. Now it's that roller coaster is probably the smallest in the world, but when you go on a roller coaster, the scariest part of a roller coaster is not coming down, it's going up. When you're looking it down from the street, you're looking up, you think that's the bit that's scary. But the bit that's scary is actually the bit when you go up. It goes up really slowly, it makes this horrible, excruciating clicking sound as it's going up. So Dinabandhu said that this is like Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, and Arta Nivriti. It's that slow climb up the roller coaster. And that can take years. And we're thinking, I'm never going to get anywhere, I'm not making any progress, I'm not going anywhere. But when you go up a roller coaster, there's a certain point where you look down and it's like, oh my God, we're so high. You know, when did that happen? You know, I'm higher than I realized. And then he said, you go over that bend, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, Prema, happens quite quickly, quite quick succession. But it's getting to that point of Nishta that takes time. So we're all on the, some of us may be on the stage of Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, but many of us may be on the stage of Shraddha, but we're at different stages of Shraddha. So just asking people to chant Hare Krishna, that's the beginning of Shraddha. That's the beginning of their journey. That's the beginning of their Shraddha. And then if we keep giving them good quality sadhu sangha, then that Shraddha will increase. And gradually they will come to the point within Shraddha where we're able to reveal these things. So even if all of us are on the stage of Shraddha, we're at a stage of Shraddha now, a more advanced stage of Shraddha, where we can go beyond, don't preach the glories of the holy name to the faithless, and we can hear about Krishna and the gopis. Maybe not all pastimes, there may be some books we avoid, but we read Krishna book. We read Krishna book, we read the Rasa Leela. It's right there in Krishna book. Prabhupada said give it to everyone. So it's not, you know, and does that answer the question? Does that sort of make sense? Is that okay?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, okay. So we're 34. I don't know if Chaitanya, if you want to offer any reflections or corrections or comments.
No, it was a really inspiring talk. Thank you, Prabhu. And I think it's apt. Firstly, you spoke about you were speaking about the 64 important items of devotional service, and then you said that there's 5 most important ones. We sometimes say the A, B, C, D, and E. A is for association. B, Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam. C, chanting Hare Krishna. D, deity worship. And E, existing in a holy place or environment. And you said that all of those things are here in the morning program. So I'm so inspired to see so many devotees here at the morning program. This is the first morning program, official one we've done for a long time, and I'm so happy to see so many devotees here. And we were saying, Vasu Shresh and I, that we wanted to reintroduce the morning program again, to start with at least once a month, and then we'll go to twice a month. So in the 61st year of ISKCON, we were going to be going forward. So we've had all of the different items of devotional service, and you know, to start with, at 4:30, some of us were a little sleepy-eyed, right, Nikunj? And myself too. I had about, I don't know, I had about 4 hours sleep last night, and I had about 3 hours the night before.
Yeah, you barely had all night sleep.
But actually, I feel so inspired now, because all of the items of devotional service are here in the morning program. I mean, maybe it's just I'm inspired for breakfast, but I'm inspired to hear your talk as well, because you're focusing about the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And it seems apt, because now, after we've had breakfast, we're going to be going out to try and share this blissful life of Krishna consciousness with everyone in Newcastle. So yeah, thank you so much. And then of course we're going to come back and we will have a festival. We'll be churning more and more nectar. But yeah, I just feel really inspired. So thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Vaishnava Sangha ki jai.
Jai.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sankirtan Yajna ki jai.
Jai. His Grace Rāmānanda Prabhu ki.